do as far as move her mother in with us or next to us or nursing homes and things of that nature. And I was trying to be delicate and trying to figure out how to, address certain things with her. And I made the statement one day, when you lose your mother, and she looked at me just as straight and she said, I lost my mother about 5 years ago. And so that really stuck with me when she said that, that even though that it's her flesh and blood and we're still taking care of her and trying to do the best we can for her, that the mother she knew and grew up with is already gone.
That makes it, and it's hard to say and it's hard to admit.
Right.
But it is reality.
It is. But it's worthy cause, and I encourage anybody that will to donate, and hopefully, and they've been making some great strides in that too. I know this is not a medical show, but
right.
but we talk about everything. But I was watching a documentary here a while back, and they've made some great progress in Alzheimer's research and identified a lot of reasons and a lot of things that's causing it, and now they're just looking for the cure and trying to figure out how to prevent some of those things from happening. So,
and I'm hopeful that one day in our lifetime that we're going to find that.
Right. I think so. I really do. I believe not in the too far distant future they'll come up with a solution. So,
well, fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Sheriff, welcome back to the program today.
Well, it's good to be here.
It's been a whole week. Have you had a peaceful week?
It's not been bad. It's been a decent week.
When it's raining all the time, do people get out and still commit crime?
They do, but
They just
not
get wet.
but not at the frequency they do when it's sunny and warm. One thing about the rain, it kind of holds people at bay at times in their homes and different places.
So there is something good to talk about when it's
the problem
raining.
is, like with weather, and it's so funny because the weather does affect crime. But one of the issues that we see is that, like, when you have sunshine and it's nice outside and pleasant, you have a lot of outdoor crime. You have a lot of theft, a lot of driving offenses, a lot of those type of things that happen, breaking and enterings in homes and those kind of things. When it's rainy or in the wintertime when it's snowing and cold and everybody's cooped up inside, then you have more of the indoor type crimes where you have assaults and domestics and all those type of things that happen. So our job doesn't really stop because of the weather. It just kind of, the type of crime we respond to changes because of the weather.
So what all is going on this week?
Well, like I say, it's been a decent week. It's been a good week. There's not been a whole lot going on outside the normal parameters. But one thing I do want to mention is last Sunday we had a meeting over at the Hinton Center there in Hayesville. I was invited as a guest speaker over there and a panelist to talk about the opioid situation in Western North Carolina and North Georgia and East Tennessee, and myself and another lady from the drug court down in Georgia was invited to be on the panel. And so we just kind of did a public forum, addressed questions, and talked about the situation that we're facing here in our counties and the things that are going on. And I found it very good that there was a great turnout for that. I wasn't expecting a whole lot of people to it, but I would say that I didn't count, but I'd say there's probably 20 or 30 people from the public came to that forum and just to ask questions and to talk about things. And I thought that was very good, that on a Sunday evening people take time out to come out just to ask what they could do to help and ask how they can be part of the solutions to the things that are going on around us.
And one of the things we have talked about with the drug situation, and everybody, if you read Facebook, anything, you know that it's a problem. And there are different ways of dealing with things. Even with our own attitudes, you can just look and blame and just add to the problem by the negativity. Right. Or we can start finding solutions and try to help people get out of that cycle.
Right.
And a lot of this has to do with the community's attitude, and if we just want to get our hands dirty and help fix the problem. And with the in the past we talked about the day use center, and that's becoming like a referral from those who are in jail, and usually that's where people with drug problems are ending up. So it's a great place to start. And if we can affect, just some good quality programs and affect a few people's lives and just let that spread out, that's going to make a big difference. And that day use center has moved over to the shopping center, correct?
It has. And one of the things I was very impressed with the panel discussion we had on Sunday was the lady that's from drug court down in Georgia. They have a very successful drug court operation there in Union County and Towns County. and they have about a 72% success rate and about a 28% recidivism rate.
72% success rate?
72% of the people.
How
that
encouraging
come
is
through.
that?
And so I found that very encouraging to understand that there are things out there that works, and how we can do things a little bit differently. And one of the other things I thought with that also was that with the drug courts and things that are going on, they were accomplishing a lot of the things that we're trying to accomplish with the Day Use Center and some of the other programs that we have around in Cherokee County that we're kind of already doing in a loose form. But I thought how great that would be if we had a drug court involvement where we had judges and attorneys and district attorney's office and law enforcement and a lot of our community partners all in one place, to go through these programs where people didn't have to go these different resources. That's kind of what we've been trying to accomplish all along, is to bring everything together. But what we have found is through the way they've set up their drug court down in Georgia is that it's accomplishing all the things that we've been trying to accomplish here. And so I think that's probably going to be our next corner that we're going to try to turn and head into that realm. I do know from reading the paper this week, the Cherokee Scout, that when and I have talked to District Attorney Welch about this before, but I do know that she stated in the paper that they are in favor of a drug court and would like to see that happen, and here in Cherokee County, not just here but in the district. But one of the things that people need to understand is the way Georgia operates is they operate off a grant system through their state. And so their state actually ponies up the money for that, and the participants in that program actually pays back a portion. They actually pay to be in the program. And so they get hooked up with jobs. They have a certain percentage of their money and a certain amounts of money they pay to be involved in the program. And so I thought it was good that they are invested in it as far as participants. But one thing that we need to understand in North Carolina, we currently don't have grant funding and programs set together for that. So in order for us to accomplish that, that's something we're going to have to petition our legislators about, is about setting money aside in Raleigh for grant programs to establish it. And
we can have all the great ideas we want, but we have to have a way to pay for them.
Everything revolves around money. Everything we do revolves around funding and money. And if there's anybody out there that would love to volunteer their time and head these things up and spend countless hours, 80 hours a week plus, to keep these drug courts and stuff rolling for free, we'd love to have you. But unfortunately, it takes money for that to happen. You have to have employees and hire people to do that. So, go ahead.
Oh, and it's encouraging too, because so many things have been tried so far with you in your office to make these, and it's okay to learn from these things. You progress, like, oh, this may work better. And it's also good that you're able to reach outside our county and look at other things that are working too, to incorporate those. So I've always been of the feeling that I don't always have to know everything, but to be able to know how to find solutions for that, then we can always improve.
Well, one thing, we've said from the beginning as we're trying to do this, and it's just practical, is you don't want to try to go out and reinvent the wheel. If there's something that's already out there that's already working and already successful, we don't want to try to rebuild it from scratch and figure it out ourselves and make the same mistakes other folks have already made. So let's look at these programs and look at what's working and see how we can mirror that and do it in our own county, in our own community, to accomplish the things that we need to accomplish. And so I think that's important, that we do tap into those other resources and those other places.
I think it stretched my arm. I was reaching back. Apparently, I put the
I thought he was going to fall over in his seat. He needs to turn his camera back to himself where everybody can watch him.
No, that's too entertaining right there.
He about fell over in the back of his seat on the floor. So.
I was reaching for my cup of coffee. I put it way back so it doesn't spill in the control board. And I don't want to roll because people can hear my chair rolling on the microphone. So I was trying to reach, and I think I just pulled my shoulder out of socket by doing that.
Yeah. It's because you're 60.
That's right. This old age is not working out very well for me.
There you go. But like I say, going back to the drug issues, I think we've said from the beginning, and we want to make sure that we remember this, is that we've got to try to look at new things and doing things differently, because our old ways and our old tactics and our old ways of doing stuff, obviously it's not working. So we need to look for new ways and new inventive ways to try to make our community better and try to reach out and help our folks.
So if there was a drug court, is there space and time available in our courthouse to hold such, or it would be a nighttime thing, or how would that work?
That would be one of those things would have to be decided by the courts. The chief district court judge or the chief superior court judge, probably the superior court judge, would have to figure that out in the court schedule and what time for what courts to be available. So that's something that's beyond our control. That would have to be handled within the judicial system. Is how they would do that.
A lot of people may not realize that our courthouse has a second, smaller courtroom in that.
We do.
How is that used? That's one of the newer ones, and I've only been there one time,
Right.
and that's when we were doing the appreciation. I think it was the law enforcement appreciation day.
Typically, if we just have one court going on during the day, our one court's typically held in the big courtroom, the major courtroom. If we have a superior court and a district court going on, generally speaking, superior court's in the big courtroom and district court's in the smaller one. But if we have two district courts going on, then generally the biggest calendar gets the biggest courtroom, and then the smaller courtroom gets the smaller calendar. But what happens a lot in that small courtroom is more of the family relations court. You have a lot of DSS and domestic courts and family relation courts are held primarily in that
smaller courtroom. It's a nice courtroom too.
It is. It's very nice.
That was the only time I've been in there. I was like, wow, this is nice.
Yeah,
And
it's a very nice courtroom.
it was very camera friendly.
Yeah,
Did you hear something?
I kicked my chair.
Oh.
I think his conscience is bothering him today.
Being this old, it's just
That's what
it's
it
one of
is.
those things.
That's what it is.
Yeah, whenever we have the two courts going on at one time, those are the days where it's almost impossible to find parking in Murphy.
We have had 3 and 4 courts at one time going on.
Are you serious?
We have. There's another smaller courtroom downstairs where the Veterans Administration office is.
I didn't know about that.
There's another very tiny courtroom down there. Sometimes they hold magistrate's court and those type of things in there. So we have had 3 courts at a time going on, and sometimes we had 4 courts where we had half a day with one court and the other half another court at the end of the day. So it can get very busy over at the courthouse.
I need to spend more time at the courthouse so I can observe what's going on.
Right. And like I say, some days there may not be any court, but some days, like you say, when you come through Murphy and you can't find a parking spot, so those are the days you have 2 and 3 courts going on most of the time.
All right. Well, very good.
Yeah.
And our phones are going crazy, by the way, in case you hear all these weird noises on the broadcast.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're winding down summer. Are you glad that summer's over with? Are you ready for fall to get here?
I don't know. I've always been a fall and winter kind of person. I always like cooler weather and cooler air and snow and those kind of things. But I think the older I get, the more I like summertime and the warmer weather. And
Me too.
I think when you get a little bit of age on you, you kind of appreciate the warmer days. But I've always been fond of fall and the cooler air coming in.
And this is not to get at you or anything, but I've noticed on Facebook that this has been a very active snake year. Has 911 had a lot of snake bite calls this year?
We've had a few. For those new listeners that may not know, I do not like snakes. I don't like them at all. And I think our number 1 top-rated show that got the most views and most
Laughs
and airtime was when the snake got in my car, and we had a whole show dedicated to the snake in my car.
Yeah, that was the day that I think I injured my rib from laughing so much. But
I don't care for snakes. But ever since we did that show, any snake videos that come on Facebook or YouTube, people send them to me, and I guess they just love to torment me with
you
those
have such
videos.
good friends.
Right, yeah. Yeah, they like to send them to me. So.
But I really have noticed a lot of Facebook, like people taking pictures of snakes. I know Chuck at the other radio station, he lives in Topton, and he has an abundance of snakes that, I know they've had 3 over there this year.
Right, yeah.
That's crawled into transmitters.
I think one of the things that's not been typically you have bad snake years when dry years. They typically come off the mountains down to where the water and cooler temperatures are located. But I think this year we've had so much water. Water's been available that there's not been a huge snake problem this year. We've not had a whole lot of 911 calls about snakes this year. And good. Snake bites and those type of things. So,
and it really is important for parents to educate their kids the differences between the venomous and the non-venomous snakes. And
yeah, let's teach our kids the difference between good and bad snakes.
Yes, the good and bad.
The bad ones are alive. The good ones are dead.
But I did see yesterday a video where a kid had just picked up a snake. He didn't know if it was poisonous or not.
Yeah.
And then the next photo was a picture of his hand swollen up about 3 times the size of his hand. But he didn't know that was that could do damage. But he just picked it up as a toy.
Yeah.
I've never tried that before.
I have not either. I've never had a desire. Well, I picked one snake up in my life. and I swore if I ever got it through off my
Weren't you
arm,
on duty at the time?
I was on duty.
That was part of your job?
I was on third shift patrol, and I got a call for an animal control call, and animal complaint actually is the way the call come in. And I thought it was, most time 3 o'clock in the morning, you get animal complaint, it's going to be a barking dog. That's typically what you get.
Right.
And
so you prepared for a barking dog?
I did. I prepared for a barking dog, and I went to this house, and a little lady, probably in her late 80s, was there waiting on me in her little nightgown, and I got out of the car and didn't hear any dogs barking, and she said she had a snake in her house and needed it out. So I grabbed a hoe at the door and thought, yeah, I can get it out. I've done this before, and she didn't want me to kill it because it was a black snake, and so I thought I can handle this. I'm an officer. I've got a badge on. I'm big and I'm tough. I can handle this. And so I pinned the snake down and got it behind its head and picked it up, and it wrapped around my arm all the way up to my ear, and its tail was flicking me in the ear as I was carrying it out. And I was praying the whole time, Lord, if you help me get this snake off my arm, I will never pick up another one. And I got it off my arm and threw it off in a kudzu thicket, and to this date, I've never picked up another snake.
Well, you have to honor your promise to God.
I
yes.
did. I made a promise. So
I would have loved to have been there. That would have been the best Facebook Live I could have ever imagined doing.
Yeah, I was not a preacher then, and I might have said some things I shouldn't have said.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah. So I don't like snakes. It's just one of those things I've never cared for.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. All right. Well, anything upcoming that our folks out there in radio and Facebook land need to know about?
We do have a Citizens Academy going on right now. It's wrapping up. It's got a few more weeks left of it. I think we've got a different academy starting. I believe sometime in September is what our goal date is for that new academy to start.
I want to be a part of that. I really do.
We've had several people call and inquire about it, and Roger Williams is the contact person for that. Sometimes Roger can get hard to get a hold of. He's got a lot of court and got a lot of irons in the fire. But if you're calling him there and get transferred to his phone, if he don't answer, leave him a message, and he'll get you signed up for that next class that's coming up. And so we have to do some background checks and have to do some different things to know who's in the classes and why they're taking them and that kind of thing. But we encourage our public to come take part in those Citizens Academy. And,
what can they expect to get out of that academy?
Well, typically what happens is when you come to the Citizens Academy, you'll start off. I typically do the first lesson, the first night of the academy, and we talk a little bit about the sheriff's office, what the sheriff's office is, how it was established, and how it's different from other police agencies. And we kind of talk about the history of the sheriff's office and kind of what we're responsible for and all those kind of things.
Ronald Lambert just sent a text message. It says, sounds like Derek should lip sync Winnie Bagwell's Rattlesnake song.
I might consider that. But anyway, when you go to the Citizens Academy, we start off with that, and then we'll go for different facets of the sheriff's office. We'll concentrate on civil process one week. Another week will be on patrol duties. Might talk about sex offender registries, talk about civil process, talk about jail and detention, 911 center. We'll just take all the different things we do each week and break those down and talk a little bit about what we're responsible for, what the sheriff's office does, how we operate, those kind of things. It actually incorporates a section in there with ride-along program if you want to ride with the deputies and those type of things, kind of see how we operate and the way we answer calls. But at the end of that, once the program is over with and once you graduate the Citizens Academy, then it's offered to you. There's not a requirement, but it is offered to you that if you would like to come back and volunteer at the sheriff's office, you know all the different facets and aspects of the sheriff's office. So then we'd like for you to come back and volunteer and help us with different things that we need to do. It could be anything from if you want to just help file with the Victims Advocacy Unit and help file papers and things of that nature. Or it could be if you want to, if you're an off-duty police officer or a retired police officer or just like that facet of it. There may be things such as special events, of 4th of July, the folk school, when we go out there and help with them, or parking cars and different things that you might can volunteer for and be a part of it and represent the sheriff's office as we're doing these things. Or one of the things that we're looking at, if we can get enough volunteers, enough people available for it, that we can do a regular rotation. We may look at creating some sheriff's office volunteer cars that can do some escorts, funeral escorts, and things of that nature. So it's kind of wide open as to what we're going to do with it, and it's really going to depend on the amount of participation we get and what people want to do. Along with that, too, with that program, What we'd also like to see is break that down into different community watch type programs and things of that nature to help people get community watches started.
I think if maybe people would think twice about committing crimes in the neighborhood, knowing that we have a lot of informed citizens who have gone through this program that are aware and are just vigilant and watching to make sure things are up and up in their communities.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing that we keep trying to encourage our people and our community members to understand is that with all the problems that we face with the drugs in the area and opioids and all the different things that we're dealing with, really, if we want to make a lasting change and a lasting difference, it really takes a community approach to do that. And it takes the community getting involved and taking back control of their own communities. And so law enforcement has its place. There's things that we need to do and help facilitate that. And there are people that needs to be put in jail and people that needs to be arrested and all those things. But if we ever want to make a lasting change in our community, we're going to have to get beyond just arresting people and start getting into community involvements and how communities can take back their communities. So that's what we're really looking for the future.
Well, I've had this conversation many times here lately, and as recently as yesterday, and people are noticing the drug problem, and they also notice that we're looking for better jobs.
Right.
But part of that is people that are hiring do drug tests, and a lot of people cannot pass a drug test to get a job.
Right.
And I have to ask myself, did the drug problem, is that part of when we lost so many jobs to people move to drugs? How does employment and drug addiction...
I think that played a factor in it. I really did. I think when we kind of went through our I call it a mini recession here in Cherokee County, when we kind of flooded the market with houses and all these things, and then economy kind of crashed there for a while, and people were out of work and out of jobs. I think that's really when you started seeing drug use pick up at that point. But one thing I do want to clarify a little bit too is, you hear this constantly going around, and it is true. I mean, it is what it is. But you have different people reporting that Cherokee County was in the top 5 of the worst counties in the state for the opioids and those type of things. But one thing that we need to put in perspective that people need to understand is that we are in a unique place geographically than the rest of the state, where we border Tennessee and Georgia. And with our economy and the way it is in Cherokee County, with people from Graham and Clay County, with not really a whole lot of resources in their county, a lot of them come to Cherokee County. So with our hospital and recording all the overdoses in the hospital and coming to the hospital, we're getting Clay County overdoses, we're getting Graham County overdoses, we're getting North Georgia overdoses.
So those numbers are a little bit altered.
Yeah, we're getting East Tennessee overdoses. And so because we have one hospital for the region, for the area, all those people are coming to our county, and we get credit for all those overdoses. And
so that data for that comes from the hospital?
Right. Part of that data comes from the hospital. It comes from crime reports. It comes from the hospital reports. It comes from statistics of the hospital and medical professionals sent into the CDC and all those kind of things.
That's right. Polk County, since their hospital closed, they either have to drive to Fannin
or Cleveland,
or Cleveland, Georgia, or come to Cherokee County.
Right.
So
like when you even in extreme East Tennessee, there at the Tennessee line, a lot of those folks come our way. Our medics pick those up. Like I say, if you're in Clay County and you need to go to the hospital, you go to Murphy Medical Center. And a lot of times in Graham County, Topton area, you go to Murphy Medical Center. And even some folks in Macon County do. If they live in the Nantahala area, for a lot of those folks, it may be easier to come into Andrews and go to Murphy Medical than it would be to go across the mountain and back into Franklin over that way. So a lot of those numbers are skewed to reporters. And so I think we just need to keep things in perspective. I'm putting together right now a PowerPoint for the commission board that we're going to show at a later date once we get all of our data together and put together for them as to what crime really looks like in Cherokee County and the way it's really changed or not changed over the last few years. And so hopefully that'll get a better picture to people out as to what is really going on out there.
People get frustrated, and you are in a position where people just want to put blame on you for the things that are going on in the community. and I hear things, and sometimes sounds like they feel that you don't care about these problems.
Yeah.
So you get all this blame, and it's obvious from just talking to you and doing these shows
Right.
that you're doing what you can to try to curb, and you actually go out and talk to people and say, how can I help?
Right.
So how do you respond to people that just want to place blame on you in your office?
Well, I had a guy tell me today, or actually it was yesterday, he had went to that meeting on Sunday, and he said, that he had some ideas, had some solutions, wanted to sit down with me and talk to me about some things. And he said he was really disheartened because it seems like these meetings we go to that he constantly hears people complain, but nobody has any ideas or any solutions.
Mm-hmm.
All they want to do is complain. And I kind of chuckled, and I said, "Welcome to my world." I said, "That's my world every day."
Right.
People want to complain about everything coming and going, and complain about the state, but they don't want to get their hands dirty. They don't want to get in there and do the things that needs to be done to make it better. But the fact of the matter is, and I say this wholeheartedly. This is not a political stunt. This is not. I say this wholeheartedly, that if I felt like that anybody else could step in as sheriff and make things better and make a better community, and that I'm not doing what I need to do and somebody can do it better, and I felt like they could do it better, I'll step out of the way and let them do it, because I am here for the community, and I want our community to be better. But I think a lot of times, a lot of that talk, when you talk about the negativity and the people posting blame and all that, I think a lot of it comes out of frustration. I mean, it just comes straight out of frustration, and they want somebody to fix everything. And the fact of the matter is, for the most of our problems that we have, it doesn't matter if we had our previous sheriff, if I'm in as sheriff, or the next person comes in as sheriff. A lot of these issues we face is far beyond one person. One person
Right.
is not going to fix all the things that's going on. It's just like with our president of the United States. It doesn't matter if you have Democrat, Republican. It doesn't matter if you have Obama, Trump, or Clinton, or Bush, or who's up there as president,
Or Ross Perot.
There are some things going on in America that's far too big for one person and one political position to fix. And so I just try to keep things in perspective. I was talking with one of my administrative staff this morning, about being disheartened and trying to do the right thing and do a good job. And there are some things you just have to resign yourself to the fact of, that no matter what you do or how you do it, there are going to be people out there that's not going to be happy with you.
Absolutely.
That's going to think you're not doing the best, and going to think you're not doing the right thing, and going to make accusations and all those kind of things. But you just have to keep your head up and do the best job you can do. And you have to keep your head up and try to make the best difference you can make. And then when it comes to elections and it comes to all those things, just let it fall where it falls,
Right.
And you can't worry yourself to death about it, worry yourself to death about what people say and what people think. You just have to do the best job you can do and go on from there.
And it has to be tough not to take things personally at times. But
I take things personal a lot of times. I mean, I really do. And, even when I was pastoring, I'll just be honest with you, there were times dealing with church members and stuff that things would happen, and I'd jump in my car and I'd start to their house, and when I get there, I'm going to say this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to let them have it, and I'm, because I'm hurt. But somewhere along the way, you have to realize that's not the right thing to do.
Right.
That's not the right attitude to have. That's not the right person to be. And so you have to step back and take a look at it and say, okay, I need to represent myself correctly. I need to represent my God correctly. I need to represent the office I hold correctly. And so we can't, even though we may take things personal, we can't lash out and just be mean to people and fight with people all the time. We have to just do the best job we can do.
That's a great place to end the show.
It is.
All right.
Happy birthday.
Well, thank you, Sonny. I sure do appreciate that. We'll just, I was going to say today would be, this is our 60th this is, what's that word? The encore, or the finale.
Finale.
This is the final year.
Yeah.
No, but we're not going to do that.
You do like American Idol. They have like finales every other year.
And then come back. Yeah, we'll come back. Yeah. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching here on WKRK's Facebook Live and for listening to WKRK on 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable TV channel 25, worldwide at country.am, and on Alexa and Google Home and all those smartphone apps. We appreciate your tuning in all across the country and letting us be a part of your day. We're going to end our Facebook Live broadcast now. Let me slide that to that side, and thank you all, and we will hit this button